of the big political actors we have in governance actually sponsor terrorism in Nigeria. So if the government looks at its own house, look at government institutions, look at political actors, try to fish out those who are behind the sponsoring of terrorism and banditry in Nigeria, and actually fight corruption, actually look at ways to strengthen trust, I think that will go a long way. The federal government has to do a lot. They could actually look at the security agencies we have in the country, invest in the security agencies, train and retrain these these security agencies, these security personnel, train them, invest in them, because you cannot go to fight these bandits, these people who engage in kidnapping and other terrorism acts without having sophisticated weapons. Because if those terrorists has been sponsored, then be rest assured that they are being given the best of equipment or weapons to actually come to create havoc or wreak havoc in our communities. So the government should actually look at the security agencies and invest in them, give them what they need to fight insecurity in Nigeria. Just like our respondent said, economic development as well. The federal government should look at ways to engage the youth. They should look at ways to provide employment for Nigerians, so that we don't have people who go into crime with the excuse of we don't have anything to do, we have to fend for ourselves. Well, it lies in the hands of everyone. Everyone has to put their hands on deck and work on tackling insecurity. Let's not just leave it to the federal government alone. Even in our community engagement can actually help curb or tackle insecurity. If the communities work hand in hand together, if they understand what it means to safeguard the community, if they know each other, if they partner with security agencies, we can tackle insecurity. If you see something around your area where you live or the community where you reside in, something strange, you see a stranger with strange movements, talk to the security personnel you have around you. Report these things that happen, so that the security agencies will be proactive in helping to curb insecurity in your area. So let's put our heads together to make sure that our dear country, Nigeria, is safe, and we actually fight corruption, we fight insecurity and terrorism in our country. And that's Street Talk this morning. Let's now move on to our next feature, which is trending headlines. Let's look at different newspapers this morning, and let's see what's trending this morning. We have the Guardian newspaper, we have the Nation, the Vanguard, the Nigerian Tribune, the Punch, the Daily Independent, the Daily Times, and the Daily Trust newspapers for review this morning. I'll start with the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian newspaper, we have as major headline, fraud allegations and money laundering. EFCC intensifies manhunt for Bello, detains Sirika, freezes 300 accounts. You can find that story on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. And then we have blackout cripples business activities in Taraba, Gombe, Adamawa. That's on news page 30. CBN to sell $16 million to BDCs at 1,021 naira to a dollar amid fresh panic in FX market. That's on business page 15. Anxiety as Ihedioha, others quit PDP, Court sacks Imo party chairman. That's on news page 4. NSIB NCAA probe Dana Air runway incident in Lagos. That's on news page 5. Ganduje summons Ayedatiwa, 15 Guba aspirants over Ondo APC primary outrage. That's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Less than 20% of Nigerians access 12 hours per daily. That's on news page 3. And then we have lastly on the Guardian newspaper, federal government probes bullying incident at British International School, Abuja. Get that on Metro page 8 of the Guardian newspaper. Moving on, let's now take a look at the Nation newspaper this morning. The Nation newspaper this morning has its major headline, EFCC arrests Sirika, slams Emefiele with fresh charges. And the rider, Anti-graft agency boss speaks on Yahaya Bello, Beta Edu, others. Federal government appoints new consulate general for US, Germany, China, UAE, others. That's on page 2. At the top strip of the Nation newspaper, we have CBN sells dollar to BDCs at 1,021 naira in fresh injection. That's on page 5. Ekiti excited over next node to generate power. The rider, government takes charge. That's on news page 29. And we have on page 4, GMO 6 cancellation as Ododo submit Ondo APC report. On page 26, Igodalo urges issue-based campaign ahead Edo 2024. Government tightens import duty exemptions. That's continued on page 29 of the Nation newspaper. First Lady turns sword of alternative high school for girls. That's on page 4. My view on state police personnel, says IG Egbetukon. You can get that on page 29. And lastly, on page 4 of the Nation newspaper, Ihe Dioha quits PDP. Now let's look at the Vanguard newspaper. On the Vanguard newspaper, we have the photo speak here. I guess that's the major headline. Yes, the photo speak and the major headline says, Dangote refinery cuts diesel jet A1 prices to 940 naira, 980 naira. The riders, price cut to impact nation's economy, says Man. Will reduce pressure on foreign exchange, says CPPE. It's relief to transport operator, says Albon. That's on page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. At the top strip, CBN slashes BDC exchange rate to 1,036.3 naira to a dollar. That's on page 20. On page 8, federal government appoints 17 new charge d'affaires. And we have on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper, Okwama Ewu, community declares 17 soldiers killed along Focados River. And the riders says no Okwama villager attacked soldiers, explains how overzealous soldiers killed wounded elders and leaders. On page 8, will ensure Yahaya Bello faces trial no matter what it takes, says EFCC chair. British International School shocked over bullying of students. That's on page 12. On page 13, murdered professor's last interview. Kidnappers, terrorists don't deserve mercy. And then we have in sports, NFF board delays appointment of Super Eagles coach. That's on page 37 of the Punch newspaper. And let's move on to the Nigerian Tribune. On the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning, we have its major headline, EFCC exposes Bello, grills Sirika, freezes 300 accounts. The riders says ex-Kogi governor took $720,000 from state account to pay child's school fees. Begins probe of contract awards in presidency, NAS, judiciary, others. Explains how banks lost 8 billion naira to electronic transfer in 2022. Nigeria losing $500 million annually to cybercrime. Stop harassing me. Respect rule of law. Nigerian Tribune. That was the major headline. Get that on page 4 and 5 of the Nigerian Tribune. And at the top strip, we have CBN sells fresh dollars to BDCs at 1,021 naira to a dollar. Again, Dangote crashes diesel aviation fuel prices to 940 naira, 980 naira. NSIB begins probe into Dana Air incidents. That's on page 16 of the Nigerian Tribune. At the top strip, or the bottom strip now, we have amid protest, petitions, Ododo submits report of Ondo APC primary. The writer says NWC will ratify Ayedatiwa as candidate. Ganduje assures. That's on pages 3 and 4. Emeka Ihedioha dumps PDP. That's on page 8. Fubara reshuffles Rivers cabinet. That's on page 4. And lastly, movement to be restricted for Oyo LG poll. That's on page 28 of the Nigerian Tribune. Next is the Punch newspaper. On the Punch newspaper, we have as major headline, EFCC may prosecute 300 forex racketeers. That's on page 2. The riders, EFCC gets order to freeze 300 accounts, says one account transacted $15 billion illegally. Naira would have crashed massively if 300 accounts were not frozen, says chairman. At the top strip, Air Nigeria, Sirika goes on trial for 8 billion naira. 8 billion naira fraud, that's on page 30. Air Nigeria, Sirika goes on trial for 8 billion naira fraud. Dangote drops diesel to 940 naira, station sell 1,400 naira. That's on page 21. And on page 23, CBN releases more dollars as naira weakens to 1,300 naira to a dollar. At the bottom strip, bullying, Abuja school shot, victim may sue. That's on page 22. Yoruba Nation, Afenifere slams Akintoye Igboho. That's on page 7. Lautech students seek justice for cop allegedly. Okay, Lautech students seek justice after cop allegedly kills copper. That's on page 4 and 5. 50,000 schools listed for federal government safe school scheme. That's on page 7. Now let's look at the Daily Independent newspaper. Major headline on the Daily Independent says, airlines set to reduce fares as man sees inflation easing. That's on page 29 of the Daily Independent. Let's look at the top strip. Top strip says, Afenifere dissociates self from call for Yoruba exit from Nigeria. Tinubu okays 20% palliative for traditional and religious institutions. On page 7, we have these headlines. Alleged 8 billion naira fraud. EFCC arrests, grills ex-minister Hadi Sirika. Dana aircraft skids off runway at Lagos airport as NSIB commences investigation. Edo Guba, let's make our campaigns issue-based. Igodalo urges co-contestants. On page 6, Yahaya Bello, anti-corruption groups condemn EFCC's tactics, insist on due process. The rider, Kogi Assembly demands removal of wanted tag from Bello's name. Lautech student on rampage as security agent kills student, injures 2. Electricity tariff, Reps Speaker mulls bill for NAS, stakeholders consultation before hike. And lastly, Atiku's camp depletes as Ihedioha dumps PDP. That's on page 6. Moving on to the next paper, which is the Daily Times newspaper this morning. Major headline says, electricity tariff, Speaker to sponsor bill for compulsory NAS stakeholders consultation. That's on page 4. At the top strip, NIMET DG states challenges facing early warning system. At the bottom strip, Minister summons lead British international school over bullying allegation. That's on page 3. Troops neutralize scores of terrorists in Katsina and Zamfara. That's on page 2. Soldier on birthday spree accidentally kills villager in Plateau State. Sex scandal. UNN ASU distances self from lecturer seducing married students. On page 5, former Imo governor Ihedioha resigns from PDP. And now our last paper for review this morning is the Daily Trust newspaper. And the major headline says, how EFCC nabbed Sirika over 8 billion naira fraud. The writers sacked directors for interrogation. Ex-minister brother's account remains frozen. That's on page 4. At the top strip, we have NSIB probes Dana aircraft skid incident. That's on page 5. It's wrong to increase electricity tariff without consultations, says Speaker. Sokoto sacks 15 district heads over insecurity, land racketeering, others. At the bottom strip of the Daily Trust, Abuja British school bullying sparked outrage, closure. That's on page 3. Federal government appoints 17 new charge d'affaires consuls. That's says General. That's on page 26. And on page 6, bandits kill 3, abduct 8 in Kaduna communities. And the last headline from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning says, I'll resign if Yahaya Bello is not persecuted, says EFCC chairman. Now let's come back to the studio as we're joined by our analyst this morning, Engineer Meshach Oza. Good morning, Engineer Meshach.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very wonderful morning.
Welcome to Newspaper Analysis this morning.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
The headlines this morning are quite interesting, but few of them run across all the papers this morning. Let's start with the Nation newspaper. Major headline of the Nation newspaper says, EFCC arrests Sirika, slams Emefiele with fresh charges. While you're going to be analyzing this one, let's merge it with Yahaya Bello and EFCC. EFCC chairman has vowed to resign if Yahaya Bello is not prosecuted. Also, we have EFCC exposes Bello. That's Bello. Grill Sirika freezes 300 accounts. And there was one I saw on the Better Edu. But then let's just look around
I think basically it's
corruption and fraud.
It is not, look, the AFCC should not be like the dog that can bark but cannot bite. We need prosecution processes that end in logical judgments, like they handle Yahoo Boys cases. There's always a judgment. We don't want negotiated judgment. We don't want buy up judgment. We want judgment that will be premised on the available evidences portraying the guilt of these players. And I don't want selective treatment. I mean, what of the likes of Matawale, what of Pentami? These are people that have cases that must be investigated. It's a shame. If you have said now you have investigated this certain individual, Sirika, you investigated Better Edu, and they have found accounts that means these people have been indicted. They should be placed, they should be arrested immediately and prosecuted. You don't give them bail. You don't give them executive freedom, executive bail of self-recognition when they have looted the country dry. For the case of Bello, it's very laughable.
It's laughable because this writer here in the Nigerian Tribune says, Kogi governor took $720,000 from state account to pay child school fees.
About when he was leaving power, he took that amount to pay child school fees ahead. What a show of shame. I mean,
that's a huge amount. $720,000.
That means he has probably paid for up to his final year.
But the question is, how can a governor take this amount, $720,000 from state account?
Well, it's nothing to them. To them, the state, they own the state. A lot of governors.
So the governors can just walk to a.
They can't. It's in collusion. They can't. It's in collusion with maybe the The accountant general is in collusion with the commissioner of finance. It's not. It can't go there without the consent or the connivance of other players in the state executive council. So I mean, some other people are going to be culpable in this, and it's a show of shame because it is very disappointing. A lot of state governors seem to look at the COFAs of most states as their personal account, and they can do just anything with it. How can you, the common man, if you're building the standards, raising the standards of schools in your states, improving on the standards of education, you are paying ahead for your child's entire school duration, and with that staggering, that amount is even too much. There's nowhere you are going to pay 5 years course with $720. So there's more to that story. It's the $720,000. I mean, it calls for a lot of investigation. But I'm an advocate of fairness and justice. Okay. It should be investigated. And besides that, every other persons that are culpable. We have people. I have cases like Matawele. He has case with the EFCC. Some cases are just thrown. It's like if you are not in the good books of the government in power, they will make sure you are prosecuted for your financial crimes. There must be equitable dispensation of justice. If you are found to be wanting in any way during your advocacy as governor or whatever, you must face the same crime, the same music, without fear of favor, without bias to political affiliation.
Do you think we're actually going anywhere with our fight against corruption in Nigeria?
Yeah.
Because look at the EFCC has come out to say, oh, these are the allegations against Yahaya Bello. Yahaya Bello should be arrested, but he has gone into hiding in the same country where we all are. The IGP actually withdrew the policemen that were attached to him, and Yahaya Bello is still missing. And now he came out to say he will he would resist arrest by the EFCC, but he is going to appear in court.
That's laughable.
So do you think we're actually going anywhere? Are we, moving on or moving forward with our fight against corruption in Nigeria?
Well, I think there's a little bit of improvement. I won't say we're moving at a snail speed. And until, they use the same force they are using in prosecuting the so-called Yahoo boys, if they can use that kind of energy to prosecute corrupt politicians as well and achieve justice. It's not just pursuing them, then in the long run, they will say they will take a plea bargain. There's no plea bargain. They must go to jail. And I think there's an improvement because government begin to, but I think where I have an issue is that it's looking like a selective prosecution. Everybody, whether you are an advocate or a proxy of government, or you are not, must face the same music if you have been found to be wanting. So there should not be selective treatment. Anybody that has stolen state funds, that has stolen public funds, that have been found wanting by investigation by the EFCC must be made to face the full wrath of the law. Selective treatment debases the quality of justice, and of course it brings into question the credibility of our judicial system. So I'm not an advocate of selective. Anybody, if he has been found guilty, must face the full wrath of the law. And people, if they have been found guilty, must not be allowed to move freely. They must be stopped from movement. They must be completely incarcerated pending or they put under house arrest. Their movement monitored, their passports held back so that they don't get away. You can't steal this whole lot of money and think you can get away with it. And this Yahaya Bello man is full of a lot of arrogance, and I think that's not a true quality of a good leader. It should be submissive. Why did they have to be hiding? Why did they need? If he was truly, if he's truly worthy, if he doesn't have anything to hide, he should allow. The FCC chairman said he had been inviting him. That look at the petitions that we have. Come and clear yourself. Invited him personally. He asked the FCC that they should come to his village. The FCC chairman said he was scared that a certain woman in the FCC wants to arrange people to mock him when he's called, harass him over 100 people. The FCC chairman looked at it and I said, okay, you follow the chairman's gate and to my floor. There we have other gates. And
it's only in Nigeria we see this kind of things play out.
Exactly.
Someone who the EFCC says has this fraud allegation against is giving the EFCC conditions before he appears. It only happens in Nigeria, and I totally agree with you when you said we're moving at a snail pace, because how long will it take for them to conclude the investigations on Betta Edu? Conclude it, and if she's guilty, let her be prosecuted. we keep hearing this. The
One
EFCC
story
has
after
arrested
another,
this person. This person has been invited over for questioning. We want to see the EFCC indeed conclude their investigations and prosecute those who are
That's
guilty,
it.
those who have stolen the nation's money, because this money they've been calling, they're quite huge.
Quite
Over
huge.
300 accounts have been frozen. $720,000 paid for your child's school fees. It's quite huge.
People are wicked.
Terribly wicked. Now let's move on to another headline. This headline cut across all the papers this morning. Did you see that video of the bullying that happened at the British International School?
Yes, I did.
So the headline here on the Guardian newspaper says, Federal government probes bullying incident at British International School.
Yes, a lot of these institutions that this became viral is the reason the school is reacting, the reason the parents are reacting, is the reason. There are so many, over 90% of bullying cases and misdemeanor within most private elite schools go unreported. And there's so much insanity in this school, so much high-handedness, so much peer influence in most of these big private schools that you pay millions to train your children. And it's laughable. I think the federal government needs to take serious action on this one. And a lot of private school owners need to understand that they give us the impression, look at a certain private university coming out to say, all these girls were virgins, they are virgins for the graduate, they are the one at Ilele, Madonna. And it was laughable when one of the girls came and said it's a lie, that she wasn't the virgin. So you don't create an ambience of tranquility, an ambience of quality education, but not trying to improve the standard of living or the personalities of these children. Look, there's so much bullying going on in private schools, going on in boarding houses, going on in not just private universities. And I think the public is beginning to lose trust, because immediately after the video went viral, majority of the parents came that, look, they want to withdraw their children, and they withdraw their children. I saw the visuals of that as well. So for me, the federal government needs to look more at commercialization of private institutions, because a lot of them they are using it for commercial purpose, basically, not for improving the standard of education. So I think we need to look more into that.
And then what role do you think parents have to play? Because looking at bullying in schools, it's terrible. Young children,
Well, it's
as
difficult.
young as they
It's
are,
difficult. It's
could
difficult.
inflict such pain on the
Yes.
fellow students.
Blessing, it to be difficult for parents to play much role, because these students are within the confines of, in quotes, the schools already.
Yeah.
So it's expected for those 3 months or for the semester these children are going to be, it is the responsibility of the school at this time. You see, a lot of peer influence, the influence of social media, peer influence. There's so much cultism in some of these private universities, but the owners do not.
We're talking about secondary school here.
Even in the secondary school, there's so much cultism in some of the secondary schools, rather, and the parents do not even have an idea, because their dual personalities, their children present dual personalities. The children, the personality in school is quite different from the personality at home.
Yes.
And the influence of peers. So the ego, there's even tribalism within private secondary schools. So it's difficult for parents do their bit at home. But the school, since it's a boarding house like BIT in Abuja now, the school needs to play more role. They should stop covering. Look at the young man that was killed, was killed in a private school as well. Yes. And so many other cases of social vices being exhibited by students in private secondary schools, especially in Abuja. Calls for questioning the integrity and the processes that leads to award of license to most of these private school practitioners who just do that for business and are hardly on ground to oversee the day-to-day running of these schools.
Well, for me, I think when it comes to boarding schools, the school authority and the teachers have a big role to play, because when parents take their children to schools, especially boarding schools,
it's in trust.
They leave these children in the hands of the school owners, the school administration, and teachers. And I think teachers need to pay attention to their students, to really monitor these children closely, because this issue of bullying, look at the case of this other young boy that we lost.
Yeah.
And the autopsy came out to say, it's not as a result of
very laughable.
That's just it. So teachers have to be careful. If you are a teacher of a particular class, know that those children are under your care. and they should monitor them closely.
The teachers can be after school. They will go to the hostels. You
The,
have, you have
the hostel
yeah,
matrons and
matrons
the
and house
patrons,
masters
yes,
and all that. How
they should
can
be
you,
careful.
you know, you see,
They
yes,
should watch these children.
it's difficult because this age, these children at this age, digital children, they're beginning to be so much ahead of parents and not to talk of teachers. I went to a boarding house. I was there at such a young age as 11, from Warri to Mina in Niger State at that young age. And of course, we had school fathers, we had school mothers.
Okay.
There was organization that then. We didn't have the influence of phones and social media. There was less peer pressure. There was we had house masters that came to check. There was orderliness. There was prep time. There was lights out time. In as much there was still bullying, but not at the scale that it is now. That, I mean, with the aid of social media, they use it as more like as a status symbol. Bullying. They want to put it on social media and all that. So the girl came out to apologize, and the way you say the apology, the video of the apology, when I looked at it earlier on this morning, you could see she was apologizing out of influence, probably influence of the school proprietor. He was looking at somebody, maybe she was reading out the apology from a written paper card or something, but you will know that she wasn't feeling remorseful.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's keep watching, and let's see how it will play out, because now the federal government are going to probe the incident, and the school has been shut temporarily for three days or thereabouts. Let's see how that plays out. Let's move on now. The Vanguard newspaper has this big headline. It's full to speak as well, that says Dangote Refinery cuts diesel Jet A1 prices to 940 naira and 980 naira.
Well, Blessing, it's difficult for me to take anything coming out of the Dangote Refinery saga seriously.
Why?
Yes, trust issues. I mean, the government came up, until I see them start selling it in filling stations or retail outlets at the amount that has been stipulated, I won't take them serious, because they told us Dangote Refinery will start by September, we'll have fuel, price of fuel will crash, that didn't happen. They said by December, it still hasn't happened. So, I mean, it's wait and see. I don't want to comment on this because I'm very angry. I've been very angry with the trust, the displacement of priorities between the government at the federal level and Dangote Refinery. It's like they're taking us for granted. They think Nigerians are totally gullible, and they want to just give us, they believe that anything they tell us, we should take it hook, line, and sinker. Totally disagree.
Okay, the Punch has it this way. Dangote drops diesel to 940 naira. Stations sell 1,400.
On my way out of here, maybe when I come tomorrow, I will tell
us the price.
Tell her, yes.
Okay.
And let me get the price confirmation.
All right. The PDP, a big news from the PDP. Emeka Ihedioha dumps PDP.
Well, it's not a surprising issue. You know, a lot of them they have the opinion that if it would have been better if you had said Emeka Ihedioha dumps politics, because now if you're dumping PDP, that's the struck party you had. That means you're obviously going to go to another party. Our politicians do not have politics. I've rarely seen in my life where you see a conservative dumps Conservative Party for the Labour Party in the UK, or a Republican dumps Republican Party for the Democratic Party. The two parties have different ideologies. So it's either you are dumping or you're resigning from active politics, not dumping the party because of the political ideology that's been imbibed in you, or you are retiring from politics entirely. Say you are dumping the PDP, it's always probably because the situation doesn't favor them, and there have been carrots being thrown at them to come join the APC. So it's really pretty difficult.
Okay. Moving on now, there's this headline here that says, Electricity Tariff, Rep Speaker mulls bill for NAS, stakeholders consultation before hike. The Daily Trust captures it this way. It is wrong to increase electricity tariff without consultations, says Speaker.
Absolutely wrong. And it's not just the rightness or the wrongness of what they did that's hurting me, the lies they said about it. Now, they lied that it's only band data was increased. My dear, all the bands were increased because a 2,000 naira unit card that could give you 36 units, what you have now is only about 12 units. That means the entire bands were actually increased. Now, if you look at it, majority of us don't even have band. The lowest band, which is band E, give you light for between 4 to 12 hours. Like me, I don't even get light from between 0 to 3 hours. So I don't even have a band. Most of us are on DLA Road, we don't have a band. Most of us are on Gokwana Road, we don't have a band. So where do you place us? And you're still being estimated bill. A lot of us have paid for meters that we have not seen to date. So who is messing with who?
And then there's this headline on the Guardian newspaper that says less than 20% of Nigerians access 12 hours power supply daily.
Yes, I think it's very correct. Like what I was just saying, less than 20%. That's 12 hours is a glorious time frame. I mean, a lot less than that. That's what people assess, and you
even the band A consumers they don't even get up to
20 hours that they are forcing them
supply
to pay for. It's laughable.
Okay, let's take another headline. The Air Nigeria. Okay, no, we've talked about the Sirica's issue. CBN releases more dollars as naira weakens to 1,300 naira dollar. Just last week we were celebrating that the naira has
look, what a lot of people don't understand what the government is doing. Now the government is digging into the foreign reserves. It's affecting our gross domestic GDP.
Okay.
You're digging into the foreign reserve to shore up the dollar, to help improve the naira, which is wrong. The only way you can help improve the naira is to stop. That's why you see there's no commensurate response on the prices of goods and services, because it is not affected by the forces of demand and supply.
Okay, those are the headlines we'll take this morning.
Thank
Just
you.
before you go, your last words.
Nigeria will be better. Nigeria will be better.
You
Let's
have
just be
hope
hopeful.
that the job will be better.
I have more than any. But then the AFCC should back and bite.
The EFCC chairman has actually, he says he would resign if Yahaya Bello is not prosecuted. So we're actually watching. We'll see if indeed he will truly resign if Yahaya Bello is not prosecuted. Thank you so much, Engineer Mesha Kosa, for joining me this morning on Paper Review. It's always a pleasure to have you on set.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks.
All right, moving on, next is our interview segment this morning. This morning on our interview segment, we'll be looking at the impact of high inflation on Nigerians, and we have as our guests Ambassador Dr. Eris Jewebi, Executive Director, Working Fingers International Initiative. Please have a wonderful time in this interview.
welcome to this segment of Morning Ride right here on Delta Television, Asaba, the People's Pride. We're looking at something that is being common with us, something that is almost looking like a permanent situation. But God forbid it to be a permanent situation, the high inflation rate in Nigeria. Some people will say it's not only happening in Nigeria. Yes, we agree it's not only happening in Nigeria. But what is the government doing to actually assuage the situation right here in our dear country? So this morning we'll be looking at the impact of the high inflation rate on Nigerians. You looked around you, have you actually paid attention to what is happening around you? People are suffering. People barely eat. People barely can afford the basic necessities of life. Well, to do justice to this topic, impact of the high inflation rate in Nigeria on Nigerians is no other than Ambassador Dr. Eris Jowo Ibi, FHCD. She is the Executive Director, Working Fingers International Initiative, an association against child, sexual and gender-based abuse. So good to have you, Ambassador Dr. Eris Jowo Ibi, FHCD.
Good morning, Ma.
Good
Welcome
morning,
to Morning
sister.
Ride.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yes, the situation in Nigeria doesn't seem to be affecting you. The high inflation rate.
Yes.
So let's talk.
Yes.
As a businesswoman, as a market woman, one who relates with everybody in the society, especially with your organization, how would you describe what Nigerians are facing now?
In fact, I don't know, we can't describe it, but it's really tough. It's really very tough. And first, what's inflation? Because somebody may say, what's inflation? Inflation is increasing and is continuously increasing high rates of every basic things in life, especially food, necessities, and now even house rent, which is shelter, is at an increasing rate. So the impact in Nigerians cannot be described on everybody, because even those wealthy people that one reason don't have issues, they all have issues. Because hitherto, you will see somebody wants to go to Abraka, you want to go to your fuel, your car, you just go. Now you see even the rich still using the common transportation. So it's affecting everybody, but especially, like I always say, the rural woman, the woman and the man in the street, the woman at home, that housewife, the children. It's affecting these people the more, especially the vulnerable, the poor. Because before, the rich, people who have, will always give. But now, those that used to have much, they don't even have to give again. So it's affecting the vulnerable persons really more. And you can't buy, before, Gary, which is our basic food, which you can easily get. 1,000 naira, you buy a bowl, which will last you for 1 week. But now, 3,200 naira, 3,000 naira and above. That's what we used to buy, basic Gary that should be in the house.
Some persons then will say common
Gary.
But the Gary is no longer common.
It's no longer common. Then what about bread? Bread that you just buy bread and coke. Coke now is 350, 400 naira.
A small loaf of bread that usually is sold for between 100 and 220 naira. It kept increasing,
yes.
And now we're at about 300 and something.
350.
Yes.
Because that small bread that you will just sit and you just eat, and it will carry you for almost the whole day. So and these things keep increasing. These prices keep increasing.
Okay. Can you provide an overview of how the high inflation rate has affected the daily lives of Nigerians?
In short, now, it's really serious. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I will keep saying that it has affected everybody, including me, and everybody, it has affected us seriously. Life is like no longer the same, because the weather, you can't have, before when there is issues, when there is no light, you will buy fuel, you will still enjoy. Exactly. But now, you can't even enjoy electricity. You can't enjoy. So, you are not even comfortable physically, as in your body. You are not comfortable. Not to talk of eating what you want to eat, because you can't afford it. And most of us can't afford what we really want to eat. This money, maybe you want to take fruit. You can't afford a fruit meal will be 1,500, 2,000.
Really
fruit
expensive,
meal
yes.
that you will just buy 100 naira, 100 naira, 100 naira. You have about 5 types of fruit you've eaten and you are good to go.
That has changed now.
It has
Because
changed
to
now.
buy a ball of apple,
Apple.
that is 300 naira, 500 naira,
Nah.
depending on
the size.
which one you want.
That small one that you buy for 120, 100 naira,
Yes.
you buy
It's now
one.
300, 350
That
now.
small one.
Yes.
So it has affected us. We can't. Then what about?
Vegetables.
You can't afford again. So the impact on us, in the area of shelter, you can't pay house rent. In the area of nutrition, you can't feed adequately. In the area of education, you can't afford to send your child to the school that you want to send your child to.
Okay. When I talk about daily life, has this high inflation affected the productivity of Nigerians? Is it affecting marriages? Is it affecting homes? Even the healthcare service you talked about. So has it affected? Has it reduced the productivity of Nigerians when it comes to going to work? Their work
Definitely,
productivity?
it's affecting daily lives. Like in homes, I'm a community-based activist, and we have a response referral team, and I am a counselor. So I get calls on domestic violence. It has increased. But what I keep advising women, it's high time that you understand the position of the man, because the man cannot provide all the needs. Okay, you the woman, you now want to try. We're talking about how we can make life more comfortable in the home. So as a woman now, you now try to sell, the thing is not coming. Because before small time, the small money, you people will eat it because you have to eat. But notwithstanding, understanding in the home will reduce the effect, because definitely the impact is there in the home. So understanding we will help the family unit. Then for the children also, before you want to go to school, let me even use my home. I have a small boy. He will just come, mommy, let's buy fuel. No fuel in the house, because he wants to watch cartoon, or he wants to play his game. He wants to play his game. So even the children need to understand the parents. Then I explained to him, my dear, this 4,000 naira that is in my hand, we want to use it to manage to eat.
You can imagine that's you.
Yes.
Okay, so imagine the other persons who cannot afford these basic things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have to explain to him that, look, my dear, we can't buy fuel, because if we buy fuel, we won't be able to buy this. So at the family unit, there need to be understanding between the children and the parents, between the wife and the husband, between the husband and the wife. Because even some men, be it at all, the wife used to do this, to do that, but it's no longer there like that. So with understanding, the family unit will be able to overcome. I have confidence that we will overcome this stage. I'm telling you, in 3 months' time, I'm telling you.
Why is
Such confidence?
Yes.
That will not take us to. That will take us to the manufacturing sector.
Okay.
Manufacturers have complained about the high tariff, and it has made manufacturing of goods very difficult.
Yes.
We look at small business enterprises and their operations.
Yes.
Everything that is going on now, high inflation rate, has affected and impacted on their businesses.
Yes.
Would you want to take it from that angle,
Yes.
being a woman who understands market situation, production, daily production,
Yes.
and all of that?
One major factor in every form of production is power.
Okay.
And that is the fuel and the diesel.
Okay.
And now subsidy is not there. Yes. So you buy fuel high. Okay, even the tailor.
Yes.
The tailor that makes your dress. I have a tailor that is in my house. The tailor needs fuel to make even the clothes.
Yes.
And for 2 hours, when she buys fuel of 4,000 naira for 4 hours, sometimes it will not even, only that these days we are still teaching small trade businesses to get a technician. There's a way they will adjust the fuel so that the fuel consumption will be reduced.
Does this really work?
It works, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's what, like that tailor, that's what she explained. Because I had to sit with her And I see to make one dress takes about 1 hour, 2 hours. So why will the cost of making the dress not increase when she now has to? There's an additional cost to her production. You understand? So those are the factors. So the power, the gen, and the lack of electricity affects every production.
Okay.
You know? Okay, then let's say the one that makes little things that you need cellophane.
Exactly.
Or you need to
Like
do
the
some.
sachet water we buy.
Yes.
Producers of those cellophanes. Those,
Yes. The cost has increased.
Yes.
So it will then they say that every production unit there is need for power. There is the use of power. So with the high cost, with the high cost of fuel and diesel, cost has increased. So that's in that area.
What strategies does your NGO, other NGOs, what strategies can they employ to help address the immediate needs of communities affected by high inflation?
By individuals, before we even look at communities.
Individuals. As persons, we'll be talking about family units, because the family units make the society. So as a family, like what we've been doing, like this year, I coordinate community-based organizations. So what we have been doing at the level of the Association Against Child Sexual, because when this high cost brings more issues in the home, so there is more violence, so there's more misunderstanding. So when the home is at peace, you see that domestic violence is reduced. So what we have been doing at our level as community-based organizations, we've been to sensitizing the market people. Healthy living is also important, because if it is when you are well and you're talking about food, you understand? So we should take care of our health. Women should rest. No matter, the stress will always be there. It has always been there, even in times past, So take care of your health as a female, as a man. Don't stress. As a man, you have to hustle. You are hustling. But
same with the women.
Same with the women. So as a person, you have to hustle. But when you know that your health is failing, rest your body. It reduces every other thing in life, Then eat little. You don't have to eat heavy. You don't have to. Before now, the way we used to make the eba. But because of the high cost that you package the eba and you give to the children. And the children drink water to support that way you have eaten.
So there should be a way of
managing and be happy.
Okay.
Yes.
Before we get to that point where you advise people, especially families, how to manage these times and pull through, let's look at the rate of the dollar against the naira. Some months back, the naira struggled with the dollar, but look at it. Some few weeks back till where we are today, the naira has stabilized and its value has increased. But that has not impacted or transformed into the prices of goods and services. What would you say is responsible for this?
Nigerian factor. When the cost, once it changes a little, you see the trader will quickly move.
Yes.
But now that it's coming down,
they are not adjusting.
In fact, that Nigerian factor. Nigerian factor. But it will get to a stage where the demand will bring down the costs.
How do you mean the demand will bring down the cost?
You know it at all. The expenditure, the things you buy things anyhow, you buy, you know, Nigerians were wasteful. Let's be truthful. Me, I'm a Nigerian. You know how we used to spend, but we see that now you buy what you need,
What you really need.
Not just buy things. Not just somebody else that they are going shopping. You just buy nonsense, just waste money. But you see, because of the situation now, everybody is maintaining. You understand? We are maintaining. So the demand for these things will first bring down the market, will bring down the prices.
Okay, so what you mean is, when we reduce the number of things we spend our monies on, that will force the market price to drop.
Yes.
And how long do you think this will take?
Because
we're looking at the individual families now, the
Yes.
individual now. The individual has need for a particular product. He or she goes to the market, gets it for him.
Begin to come down gradually. Have that strong belief, because I know, of course, it's not the first time that Nigeria is experiencing inflation.
This is really high.
This time is really high because the subsidy